Before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, we all knew this day was coming. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, and of course, ring my bell, baby. The next time your girl is on top of you, scream that phrase as loud as you can, and I guarantee you, she will be spraying like a water hose. I'll put that on Neil Druckmann's life. I always get a warm, fuzzy feeling whenever somebody sends me of stacks and stacks of dusty cobweb Last of Us 2 cases. A game so bad that it managed to flop in the wokest country in the world. The thing that makes me laugh is that the Last of Us 2 fanboys just can't let it go. The same way I can't let it go that Neil Druckmann had the nerve to false flag my YouTube channel 4 times. Twice on different occasions, so no, I will never stop roasting the living out of this game. If you don't like it, go suck on a stray dog's. The anticipated more supply than demand of Us Part 2 is a mockery, and Naughty Doggy Style deserves endless ridicule. But I know Neil Small PP Druckmann would be trying to flag these videos down if he wasn't so busy rewatching for the 52nd time in Joe Biden's basement. The date is September 26th, 2020. The National Abbyzilla getting piped from behind day. Yes, it's the day we all bleached our eyes in unison after watching Neil Druckmann's weird sexual fantasy play out, but the part where I physically recoiled in horror is when Abbyzilla was done getting clapped. She then deeply professed, "It's my turn." Cut to black. Imagine being so woke that you're worried about offending people about a fictional event in a video game. So stunning and brave. Here's the skinny, you donkey. I'm not offended by the word outbreak. You absolute delusional spineless dork. But what else offended me though was the misleading advertisement of a hugely beloved character who was treated merely as an extension of Tiger Woods' new PGA golf game. Let's be honest, Neil, you killed Joel off because he only believed in 2 genders. That was enough for you to kill him off like a dog, but in my headcanon, Joel read the script for The Woke of Us Part 2 and blew his brains out right there and then. Okay, look, joking aside, this is a classic case of an out-of-touch, soy-laden trying to make a statement in order to support whichever nonsensical woke agenda is popular at the moment, but only makes it worse by pouring more oil into the fire. Now let's get back to our good old friend Neil Druckmann and his fantasy of 2 gym bros going at it. See, our boy Neil, spelt K-N-E-E-L, thought that his work was important enough and on the same level as Mario and Metal Gear Solid to deserve its own soy day. He tried to imitate Kojima but ended up imitating Metal Gear Survive. Look, I hate to break the news to you, Neil Druckmann, but I don't think your pooper pounding no game can hold a candle to Mario or Metal Gear Solid. Just imagine how that boardroom meeting must have went. Neil Druckmann stands up, walks like a penguin towards his chalkboard. Okay everyone, let's flesh out a total nobody character to push our plot. Brilliant, now get to work, scumbags, and if any of you complain, we'll work you to the bone like slaves and then fire you, because if you don't remember, 70% of Naughty Dog employees quit during the development of The Last of Us Part 2. Now that is what I call diversity, having a completely different set of personnel every couple of weeks. Bravo, fantastic job, Neil. Isn't it funny how Neil Druckmann puts more effort into his Twitter account than the actual story of The Last of Us Part 2, because now he's selling a Last of Us Part 2 board game. Really, that's your big announcement. If you had any self-awareness, you would have sold a caved-in Joel head with a golf ball in his mouth. That would at least be worth the money, either that or the recipe of the bigot sandwich. Isn't it ironic how Sucker Punch can get their multiplayer mode out first before Naughty Doggy Style, and it's their first time making a multiplayer mode? But hold on, I almost forgot. I'm not being fair because you can cosplay as Abby Zilla. That's one constellation. You can look like Chris Pratt in a dress because a happy customer is a loyal customer, Mr. Cuckman. You treat your players like dirt and make them play as a bodybuilding transsexual, you'll end up in the bargain bin at Blockbuster. This is a Mannix public service announcement. I believe that every single today matters and they deserve the most Teflon flak jacket armor plates that Star Wars has to offer because we need to protect those huge chest missiles. But be careful, ladies. We can't have you looking like actual women nowadays according to the weird SJW logic. This world would be a better place if everyone ignored Anita Sarkeesian and the trolls like her on Twitter, because she's made a career out of being offended by the most trivial matters possible. Lady Mandalorians have boob armor. Oh, come on, seriously? Now, we're just gonna ignore the gratuitous use of apostrophes, which always grinds my gears, but we have a character in The Mandalorian who rescues the main hero, leads a movement to take back her home planet, and is loved by all of the fan base. But here we are complaining about boob armor. This woman definitely has never seen Clone Wars or Rebels, because what Sarkeesian just did was inadvertently reveal she knows nothing about Star Wars lore, because Bo-Katan's armor looks exactly the way it does in Clone Wars. Anyway, the replies to the complete brain-dead tweet is hysterical. She was absolutely getting destroyed on Twitter by female armorers, female police, and female cosplayers who all pointed out the importance of female specific armor, and of course it needs to be comfortable. But let's be honest, people, she doesn't care about Star Wars. She's angling for a cushy consulting job on a future production like The Last of Us 2, and we all know how that dumpster fire turned out. I think that Anita is maybe just really self-conscious about other women being more attractive than her, or the fact that she'll only ever attract soy boys instead of real men. Part of me does wonder if this was done purposefully to be attacked, victimized, and get recognition. Who knows, but the best thing we can do is just laugh silently from a distance. And the winner of the Best Going In Dry award goes to Neil Druckmann for his iconic love scene with Brock Lesnar. Approved by the woke committee. How could we not honor those two gym bros going at it? Because The Last of Men Part 2 is gonna win. It's gonna win not because it's good, but because it'll have no competition. Every other game that came out this year cannot fill these stupid, absurd, woke demands. Neil Druckmann got this memo years ago and hit all of the check marks to ensure his award nomination and pending win, even despite the game's narrative and pacing being just awful. One of the worst games I've never played, but the rule is we are gonna make the Dry Hump Part 2 Game of the Year whether you like it or not. I am in a good mood, people. I don't know if you can tell, but finally, our boy Neil can take home his shiny award and show his wife and her boyfriend. But the thing is, they still can't sell a single copy now, can they? The masterpiece is currently over 50% off. There are people literally reverse shoplifting this garbage. It's that bad. Now, in this speech Neil Druckmann gave, he said he put his heart and soul into The Last of Us 2. Now, let me translate that for my viewers. What he means is he put most of his employees in the hospital with mental breakdowns due to exhaustion. These geniuses gave Naughty Dog the Golden Soy Stick Studio Award of the Year. Did they not read how much Naughty Dog crunched their employees? Just openly admitting and rewarding vicious crunch time. If that doesn't tell you they were bought off, nothing will. I Am Not Starfire, directed by Neil Druckmann, and the main villain is a staircase and a healthy diet. Jesus tap dancing Christ. So just as if the shill, ego-stroking, rig-smelling farts awards couldn't get any worse, those boomers are now shilling for Brie, notice me, Senpai Larson. Look, I'm going to save you 3 hours so you don't have to watch this garbage. Mrs. Strong Whaman Brie Larson walks onto the stage, grabs the microphone, and says the winner is my favorite ghost simulator, The Dry Hump of Us Part 2. And before she walks out, she fiercely locks eyes towards the camera in a one-shot. To speak to all the people watching at home, she utters the words, "My friend Anita Sarkeesian told me all you guys are misogynists. The end." You're welcome. Imagine being a grown-ass man and using the term haters in a real conversation. Now imagine that same grown-ass man being the president of your company. But I'd imagine Mr. Yuckman's next rendition of The Last of Us has Abby Zilla and Ellie getting married, and in the honeymoon, Senator Abby Strong digs up Joel's corpse and then feeds his bones to a new dog. And then when The Last of Us 3 ends, the dog is taking a big smelly turd all over the front porch, and that dog is called Naughty. Neil Yuckman is apparently drunk on soy again. But he's also a child, and what's worse than a child, you say? A man-child, because The Last of Us 2 has more votes for Game of the Year than it has sales for the whole of 2020. You know, if the unhinged, tragic Last of Us 2 fanboys actually bought the game instead of making stan accounts on Twitter to validate their empty, pathetic lives, then maybe their daddy Neil Druckmann wouldn't be begging on Twitter for votes. Anyway, the current co-president of Naughty Dog sent his toxic weirdo fanbase to fake votes for the Game of the Year. What an absolutely pathetic tweet. Last of Us 2 fans, activate! As a bonus for every vote cast for the Dry Sex of Us Part 2, a hater loses their caps lock. Okay, look, I'll translate that text. My tweet is to show how stupid and show that I have a mental capacity of a middle school bully. Please support my cause to destroying more well-known titles and turning them woke from Neil Druckmann. Yeah, Neil Druckmann. Fake votes seem to be a reoccurring theme lately. As of me recording this, Neil Druckmann's begging for votes has failed pretty badly because the ghost shall claim glory over the she-beast Abby Zilla. To quote the great Sheev Ray Palpatine, I love democracy. Votes taken from fake accounts, paid reviews, censoring critics on YouTube like myself via false copyright. Yeah, I will never, ever let that go, Neil. You will pay for your lack of vision. You know what I find funny is that Neil fancies himself as some kind of mafia boss, when in actual fact he's just a progressive clown bashing on gamers. Meanwhile, the Hades creator is thanking everyone who voted for their game. This is what you get for simping for Anita Sarkeesian. You might be able to buy some votes from soy boy journos, but you can't trick the people into believing that your scissor fest rabbit dry humping video game is actually good. I'll try and not make fun of Neil this time because I know he will just tell his wife's boyfriend. Okay, Yuckman, I've got a special message from me, Mannix, to you. I know it must be so hard passing time on Twitter from the sound of the headboard slamming into your wall next door, from your wife's bedroom keeping you awake all night. We just subverted Mr. Neil Yuckman's expectations. I gotta say, your pathetic plan of rigging votes definitely worked. Your toxic fans did activate, but thanks to you, there weren't many left. Now, was there, Neil? As far as I know, the real fans of the first Last of Us definitely activated, that's for sure. Matter matter of fact, so did the fans of Doom, Hades, and Spider-Man. We all activated. See, Neil poked the gamers, and the gamers poked him back. Ghost of Tsushima is the people's choice, and that is all that matters. How amazing would it be if whoever accepts the award starts by thanking the fans, of course, and by the end winks at the camera and does a final thank you to Mr. Neil Druckmann.
And now, the Game of the Year award goes to The Last of Us Part 2.
I gotta say, watching this award show was like watching one of those football teams where you have a kid with Down syndrome getting to run the ball for a touchdown. It's so sweet. We all know that the real winner isn't Ghost of Tsushima. It's not The Last of Us 2. Hell, it's not even Hades or Doom Eternal. The real winner is Neil's wife's boyfriend. That's right. This is the only time I'll ever see a video with Christopher Nolan get this many dislikes. You see what you did here, Neil Druckmann? Your absolute garbage product and even worse, toxic fan base almost managed to tank Mr. Nolan's credibility. And all he did is present the award. Bravo. Thank you very much, Neil. Okay, lads, I need to be fair here. I need to congratulate the winner of the Game of the Year for their absolutely emphatic landslide victory over the going in dry Druckmann of Us Part 2. Ghost of Tsushima's incredible victory was celebrated by fans all over the world, from Japan to North America, from the UK, and yes, even Neil's wife's boyfriend's bedroom. Irony and hypocrisy. Wow, I've never seen that pair before. It's Kotaku calling out Neil Druckmann. This has too many layers of irony for me to handle. So first they award Neil and now they want to cancel him. Yeah, that definitely sounds like an SJW to me. They didn't care until after the award show. The reason why Neil Druckmann is being cancelled, Naughty Dog paid for advertising for the Game of the Year awards but forgot to pay protection money for the week. The check probably bounced or something, and once the gaming media wasn't on the payroll anymore, they decided to twist the knife and stick it to Neil. Imagine being blasted for winning an award by the same group that voted for you to have that award in the first place. Oh, and quickly before I forget, I didn't mention this in my last video, the Harvey Weinstein of the video game industry, Neil Druckmann, who was very kind enough to let his wife's boyfriend use his game award as a phallic symbol on his wife. Our buddy Neil had a deadpan expression on his face every time the skip cinematic of Us Part 2 won an award. I mean, it's almost as if he knew if he threw enough money at every garbage reviewer, that shit magically turns to gold. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 has more bugs than a crackhead's apartment. Even Neil Suxman's wife's boyfriend wants a refund too. The Last of Us Cheeks Clapping Part 2, The Revenge of the Scissorettes Golf Edition has won another award, and this time it's from the Ignorant Gamers Network. This all but confirms that Neil Druckmann has been rigging these awards since the very beginning. Happy holidays to all of my bitches out there, because as Neil Druckmann goes home to his wife and wife's boyfriend, as that wife's boyfriend puts a new arts and crafts picture on their new refrigerator, our channel has almost hit 50,000 subscribers. So anyway, the Ignorant Gamers Network were like, today I just want tons of dislikes for some reason. I'm scared of Neil Druckmann. IGN 10 out of 10 ignorant score. The Last of Us 2 makes you feel like it was made by people being underpaid. 10 out of 10 Ignorant Gamers Network score. The dodo head known as Neil Druckmann, you are not the clown here, you're the whole circus. But the media like IGN say that he's amazing and stunning and brave, so they have to let let him win, but remember your vote never counts for anything. Neil Druckmann enjoys golden showers. If your father ever tells you that you're a failure at life, you can tell that toothless wanker that at least I didn't make The Last of Us 2, because Neil Druckmann's next focus is his new autobiography book, How to Destroy a Beloved Franchise in 3 Easy Steps. When the Abby Zilla voice actress admits that The Last of Us 2 is terrible, that's how you know we've hit the bottom of the barrel. She even said it's only good for a laugh. I mean, that must hurt, Neil. If we're gonna blame someone, frankly, it's gonna be Neil Suxman's writing, which was horrible. I didn't get to this a few weeks ago, but it looks like Neil Wolkman has been promoted at the Naughty Doggy Style Studios. The first question that ran through my head was, why would they promote someone who can't even please his wife? The only reason he's getting a promotion is because he's the only one left at that godforsaken company. Everyone else quit working under him because he made them work like slaves. It is time we go back to the roots of this channel and take a massive hot dump on a certain goofy, soy latte sipping, greasy, incompetent, fart sniffing douchebag. Now imagine that The Rock is taking it from behind by Neil Druckmann. See, Neil Druckmann had a lot of time on his hands since his wife is still getting the bottom of her ass clapped by Tyrone, so he decided, oh, let's remake a masterpiece by making Ellie look like an albino Hulk, so I can go in dry Bravo 6 with both of them. Because look, Neil Druckmann has no other choice to rehash old games. All the real talent like Amy Hennig, Bruce Straley no longer work for Naughty Dog, because the greasy ponytail wearing clown running the studio only has one move left: a remake and a TV adaptation, because in the last game he made, he pissed everybody off, so let's try and make a quick buck. Neil Druckmann is essentially the male version of Kathleen Kennedy. Those two, both of them are a match made in soy boy hell. In the blue corner with a record of 700 wins and 0 losses, all by going in dry and grossing all of her opponents out, weighing 300 pounds of solid testosterone, Senator Abby Strong, who is accompanied in the ring by her cuck Neil Druckmann. The Last of Us 3 has a story outline that Neil Druckmann hopes will one day see the light of day. Naughty Dog has penned a story outline for The Last of Us 3, which creative director Neil Druckmann hopes one day will see the light of day, but it's not in development at the moment. Well, I hate to be the one to break it to ya, you coffee barista looking weirdo, but The Last of Us 3 will be the Rose Tico of video games, sitting on shelves, stinking up the place with its unbought carcass. Now, it's called The Last of Us 3 because only 3 people in the world are gonna buy this trash. Those 3 people are gonna be Tyrone, giving it to Neil and his wife as a hospitality gift. The sleazy, greasy salesman known as Neil Druckmann admitted on camera on a podcast that he blatantly created false advertising featuring Joel because he knew in his pea brain that people were not gonna like The Last of Us 2 otherwise. Literally lying to millions of people. I mean, really think about that. Just casually admits things like false advertising like it's justified. Good job, bravo. You ripped $60 from millions of people. I'm sure you're proud, not to mention false copyright striking my channel for simply exposing this lie. Now imagine being so insecure that me merely exposing your disgusting underhanded business practices makes you want to commit copyright fraud and silence my little bitty channel. Well, how did that work out for you, Neil? Because you can't stop the inevitable. I will be tag teaming with your boy Tyrone in your house very soon. Neil committing rampant copyright abuse, lying in trailers with a good old bait and switch to manipulate audiences. I mean, these are the cries of a man who's retaliating because his fetishes are being insulted when put out in public. That's all it is. Other than being a scumbag, he's just a scared, embarrassed little boy. Because also remember, he made his team create a character whose appearance is based off himself spitting on Joel's lifeless corpse. According to Druckmann, the current outline explores a little bit of what happens after The Last of Us Part 2. For those still coming to terms with the sequel's fairly bleak ending, a third game could offer so much needed closure, or dare we say it, a happy ending for Ellie. Oh yes, and I totally agree. I can't wait for the next installment, the None of Us Left Part 3. The whole point of Cruella is that she is a despicable, terrifying horrifying villain, not an anti-hero or a misunderstood victim. And it's like making a sequel to The Last of Us where a character whips out a golf club and caves in the most beloved character in the series, and then the game demands the player to sympathize with that character. Oh, wait a second, that actually happened. Thanks a lot, Neil Druckmann. Now, I want to take you back to June 2020, the last time Neil Druckmann last touched his wife. Before the dark times, before the rise of the pea-brained Abbyzilla. A few weeks before that absolute gutter trash was about to come out, someone, a good Samaritan, ended up leaking the Scissorfest Part 2 and showed the world that for $60 you too can play a full round of golf. Now, this obviously sent the dainty soy fairies over at Naughty Dog into a fit of rage. In particular, the cuck of the century, Neil Druckmann, took a break from unpacking his colon and cupping Tyrone's bollocks, and took his toothpick legs over to his PC and thought it was a good idea to literally break copyright law and try and shut my channel down along with a whole host of others. Now, I want you to think about it. What would compel this absolute cock of a man to shut down my channel? Every mainstream media outlet is like, this just in, Neil Druckmann farted and it smells like roses and heaven itself. Completely ignore the fact that Naughty Dog broke copyright law whilst also bait and switching trailers with false advertising. Here's your Game of the Year award, Neil. Ree! The backfire Naughty Dog received was glorious, but for me personally, my channel gained 60,000 subs in 8 months. I mean, how does it feel to know that your pathetic attempt to silence me only made me stronger? It's almost like when you go home, Neil, and you find that your wife is getting clapped by multiple Tyrones and there's nothing you can do about it. If Kevin Smith was a He-Man character, he'd be many faces because he betrayed all of us for a bag of silver. The most disgusting part is that all the trailers were made for the fans, but then the show comes out and it's very clearly for the woke critics. That bait and switch makes me think that Kevin Smith is Neil Druckmann's disciple. It's a very beta male Neil Druckmann move. I mean, it's the same stupid logic that Naughty Dog did with the last of woke dog Part 2. Now, Tila Zilla will turn into Abbyzilla. Mark my words, when she gets the sword, Neil Druckmann will insert himself into the show somehow and clap her cheeks. Now, I love how anime makes everything cuter, with a very appealing art style, I might add, whereas in the West, they make everyone as deformed as possible. Now, Bumping and Grinding featuring Neil Druckmann and a female bodybuilder, whose muscles would put the Incredible Hulk to shame, is apparently more realistic. Are you kidding me? Let me make this clear. If you're going to use The Last of Us 2 as some kind of measuring stick, you are a fucking dumbass. What I got from this is that flirting is only bad because Ingrid is beautiful, but if she looked like fucking Abbyzilla, they would call for even more flirting. But not only that, they'll put some more Neil Druckmann going in dry with his favorite gym bro, Abbyzilla. No, we're not talking about Abbyzilla's muscular glutes getting piped in The Last of Neil Druckmann's Reputation Part 2. I don't think my eyes could take that. Neil Druckmann saw The Acolyte and played Concord and said, these characters would go great together in my video game. He said that to his wife's boyfriend. And then he proceeded to, well, you know what, let's not even go there. You know, Neil Druckmann really loves his masculine looking females. I'm surprised he's able to program the game with one hand. Mirror, mirror on the wall, is Neil Druckmann the biggest of them all? The answer is a resounding yes. So you thought I wasn't gonna talk about this? Of course I will. A lot of people were messaging me over at Twitter, at Sir Mannix, by the way. Give me a follow. Why I haven't spoken about this yet? Why, Mannix? And just like Neil's wife's boyfriend going upstairs to clap his wife's cheeks day after day, it's another resounding yes. Now, Neil Druckmann is such a you can immediately tell if he's the game's director by just looking at the main protagonist in his games. If the female protagonist looks like a man or behaves like one, similar to that Jeff Bezos lookalike in the new Naughty Dog game called Intergalactic, you're like, yes, that's definitely Neil Druckmann directing the game. It has all of his dirty little fingerprints all over it. It's just another opportunity for him to live out his weird fantasy by masquerading as a games director. This son of a who tried to shut down my channel for simply making fun of how stupid his game was. Hey Neil, how does my on your forehead feel? You know what, let me take that back. Based on your lifestyle, that's probably something you would like, you disease-ridden whore. This guy is like the kid back in high school that you get paired up with in class for a group project, who does absolutely nothing but somehow expects to take credit when the end result comes out. But when he's forced to stand on his own merits, he completely wets the bed. That's the level we're dealing with right here, because if Neil Druckmann was in charge of Halo, he would have killed Master Chief off and made that one female Marine in Halo 2 the protagonist. This guy is such a talentless hack. Killing is bad in The Last of Us 2. Unless you're Abby Zilla, then that doesn't apply to you. What a genius. Don't bet on there being more Last of Us. Asked about The Last of Us 3, Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann says this could be it. Oh really, Neil? Yeah, that tends to happen when you mess the story and the characters beyond repair. You guys remember how before The Last of Us 2 came out, this guy said something along the lines of, we're gonna do right by our fans and your favorite characters, and then killed off you-know-who. So I wouldn't believe a word that this lying rat says, and the fact that he said this makes me believe there is gonna be a Last of Us 3. This is just him not taking the attention away from the new AAA game Intergalactic that he's supposedly directing. I had a revelation this morning. I became non-binary. Do you get it? Non-binary? Because when it comes to anything Neil Druckmann makes, they can call me anything they want, but they'll never call me a paying customer. And have you noticed every time they come out with one of these trailers, it says from the studio that brought you, but instead it should say from the studio that fired the people who brought you? Because Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, I mean, none of these people still work there. They were all laid off and replaced with Neil Druckmann's wife's boyfriends, and yes, there's like 20 of them. This guy, if I saw him, I would slap that stupid little goatee off his face. Remember when Paramount made the initial Sonic design and everybody said it looked terrible? And not only did it look terrible, it also looked creepy. Well, Paramount read the room, made changes, and Sonic went on to become a massive success. A little bit of humility goes a long way, Mr. Druckmann. So Naughty Dog knows they've been cooking this turd for like 4 years now. 4 years in production. That is not a good sign, folks. 4 years in production with how little we've seen of the game so far. And the only thing we've seen that had any kind of substance was the leaks, which by the way looks 1000% real based on this interview Neil Druckmann gave. Now the leak is interesting because supposedly the plot is about religion, and the religion is some whack interpretation of Christianity. Oh, Christianity is bad and a scam. It's very original, Neil, very original. Druckmann opened up about games by bringing up the mixed reception to The Last of Us 2, by saying we made certain creative decisions that got us a lot of hate, and a lot of people love it, and a lot of people hate that game. No, you got a lot of hate because number one, you flagged a bunch of YouTubers, you fucking cowards, who made the grave error of making fun of your stupid leaks. I mean, God, you really are that stupid. Tell me, did it have anything to do with the fact that you lied about Joel dying and that you made a shitty game? It's really that simple. Stop trying to psychoanalyze why this or that might be happening. You talentless gingerbread looking dork, and on that bombshell, Mannix out.